Hello, everyone. We are live. Thank you so much for joining us for Pillow Talk.
Hello, hello. Happy Thursday.
I'm telling you, it's raining, man.
I know.
A lot of our partners and friends and children started school today.
Yes, yes. Hopefully everybody had a wonderful first day. Yeah, so awesome.
I was excited about that. I know my sister, her baby started middle school.
Oh.
I know how I felt when Dylan went to middle school. That was tough.
We were so ridiculous.
Yeah.
The first day, we thought he disappeared in school because we got a message that
I
he didn't make it
remember
to
that.
second period.
He was his first time actually changing classes.
Yes.
And he didn't make. He was going to the wrong classes. He was following.
He was just following his friends, not his schedule. And so we got this notification from the school that he didn't make it to the second period. We were like, they'd got our baby. They'd pulled him in the locker room. They did something to him. We up at the school. They had to page him. It was so.
It was horrible.
And he came in the office looking at us like, what?
I'm okay.
Like, please don't do that again.
Well, we're excited about today.
Oh, yes.
We have a powerful lesson for you. We're going to finish what we started last week. And you
In-laws,
don't want to miss next week.
Yes.
Next week is going to be really, really good. Next week is titled, What's Good About Your Spouse?
I like that.
So often we tell our spouse what's wrong with them. You know, you don't do this right, you don't do this right, you don't do that right. But next week we're going to talk about what's good about our spouse.
But that's next week. That's next week. We got to talk about these in-laws.
Yes.
I have wonderful in-laws. But we need to talk about in-laws.
Yes.
We left off and we got a couple more points to make?
We do. All right, so we always start our broadcast off with a couple of questions, and we have 3 questions that have come in.
Oh, I'm excited about these questions.
And it's going to take us a few minutes to answer them. Number 1, it says,
I'm ready.
I just got married.
All right. Okay.
And my mom has a key to my house, I want it back. How do I ask without offending my mother? Let me say that again. I just got married, and my mom has a key to my house. I want the key back, but I don't want to offend my mother. Okay, so this is a really good question.
It's an excellent question. Thank you for sharing that.
Okay, here's the key to the question. The person said they want the key back.
Okay.
Okay. Sometimes you can have a key. Your parents can have a key to your home because maybe you travel, or maybe you are out of town a lot, or maybe you have a lot going on. You need some help with the kids, or different things like that. So you may.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. We're live. We're just trying to get some.
A little technical issue going on inside, but go ahead.
Anyway, so there are different dynamics on why you will want that key back. But this person says she wants the key back. Okay.
Okay.
So me and my wife, what we will do is we will do what we call good cop, bad cop.
Mm-hmm.
Good cop.
Depending on the family. So if it's my family, then what cop would I be?
Okay, so if that was her family, she will be the good cop, I will be the bad cop. So she will say, hey, you know, my husband, he really don't want you having the key to my home. And listen, you know, I don't want to have any trouble in my house. Please, okay, just to keep peace in my home, let me get the key back. That's good cop, bad cop. Mm-hmm. Because the key thing was, she said she don't want to offend her mother.
Well, I saw another key point in this. The other key point to me is, like you said, she didn't want to, say the question again.
She didn't want to offend her mom, but she wants the key back, but she don't want to offend her by asking for it back.
So I don't know, the fact that you don't want to offend makes me think that maybe this person is showing up and coming unannounced.
Right.
Because if they weren't coming in your home unannounced, then it's really not an issue. So obviously the person is showing up. The mom is showing up. And so I think you have to say, you know, we're just getting started. You know, we're kind of, getting used to some routines, getting our space together, and just politely ask for the key back. Now, you could send an indirect message, and mama just come one day and the locks are different. Just like, so we had to change the lock. Or you put an alarm on. Just don't give the mom the code. So
I don't think that's a good.
Okay, well then
I would if you don't want to offend, and sometimes you may have a problem, or you don't want to be direct and just ask for it back. You could actually always blame it on the other spouse. So you won't be lying. Go to your spouse and they'll talk about that, and your spouse, I'm sure, if it's an in-law, he don't want that person having the key to your home. So then you just blame
or
it on
coming in
them.
unannounced.
Yeah, and they won't back because you don't want your parents walking in and y'all in there in the shower tearing up headboards, and your mom walk in and she see you.
She won't come back no more.
I know you don't want that.
She won't come back no more.
Question number 2: when is it okay to ask our parents for advice?
Okay.
That's a good question.
I don't think it's anything wrong with asking your parents or people for advice if they're going to be impartial. If your parent is going to be truthful, they're going to tell you when you're wrong, tell you when you're right, and then apply the same thing with your spouse if they are impartial. But if you know, and we know our family, if you know that they're not going to be impartial, then maybe you don't need to be asking them advice concerning situations in your marriage. You might need to find someone who's neutral.
Number 3 is just like number 2. It says, me and my sister are close. Is it okay to include my sister in an argument? Now, I don't think it's ever okay to include a sibling in the argument. In other words, you and your spouse are having a heated debate, and then you turn around and they just automatically jump in.
Yeah,
I don't think that's
not
ever
a group.
okay.
It's not a group thing.
But if you and your sibling is close, and they can give you impartial advice, like my wife was just saying, like my brother, he's on our staff here, and one thing I can say about him, he's gonna always give me sound, impartial advice. And when he does that, then I can listen to him. Now, if you have a brother or a sister, you know they're going to automatically take sides.
They'll always take your side.
Right.
That's not helping.
That's not helping the relationship. That's not helping the marriage, and that's not going to be good.
Exactly. That's not a good situation.
Yeah, you want a person that's going to give you advice down the middle, that's going to be impartial and different things like that. Then it's always good to keep people out of your
exactly. I have this saying, and my husband and I realized this very early on in our marriage. You can deal with problems and situations. Again, I always put our fences up, our caveat. We're not talking about abusive situations and things like that. But you can always deal with problems and situations better when you keep family out of it. Family will remember something that happened 15 years from now. And they'll still talk about how he acted up at Thanksgiving over the honey baked ham. Keep them out.
It's always good. That's always good advice. Okay, so we're dealing with in-laws. Last week we talked about some of the 10 top questions that we've came across in our years of marriage counseling and helping couples. And these are the 10 most common questions. We're going to give a review, and then we'll pick up where we left off at. If you have any more questions while we're going through the broadcast, I can't see the questions, but we have a monitor here, and they'll read the questions right off as soon as the end of the broadcast. We'll try to answer them right now. If we can't, we'll answer them on next week. Okay. So, number 1, you're not good enough for my child. We talked about that one. We talked about one of y'all having children, the pressure of having children.
We talked about
that one. We talked about meddling, trying to find out what's going on with your business,
how this is happening.
We talked about that one last week. We also talked about how you should raise your child. Sometimes your in-laws can have input on how they think you should raise your child. We talked about that one. You need to go back and look at that video. It's a good video. We also talked about why your child dressed like that. We talked about that one, and we answered that question. Then we ended on this one because we ran out of time.
All right.
Helping in-laws with the bills. Now, what we talked about last week is that, hey, what we're going to show you through these next seminars, and hopefully we'll continue to carry this to the end of the year, is that when we're going to give you a blueprint, okay, of how a situation should look. But it's just like we had our home built here where we live now. We had a blueprint. But when my wife started looking at it, one thing that she didn't like about it, she said, I want to change that because that didn't fit us.
Exactly.
That didn't fit our situation. So although we had a blueprint of how the home's supposed to look, we began to change some of the things up that best suited us. So we don't know exactly what's going on inside of your home or what's going on. Like, for example, this person, how to help with the bills. What if you have a sick spouse? A sick parent. And if you have that, then sometimes you might need
a different situation that you need to see how to navigate your way through.
Well, okay,
but now, and that's something you need to. One of the things I do want to add here is you got to talk to your spouse.
Yes.
Sometimes situations come up. Maybe it's a sick parent. Maybe there's some extenuating circumstance. But you got to talk about it because there is always balance.
Mm-hmm.
There is always balance. You know, our parents have been there. They've helped us. We want to be a blessing. And maybe you're in a position to do that. Or sometimes, you know, you're just getting started and things are beyond tight. Things are choking. Like you can't breathe. And that might not be the time that you can do that. Maybe you need to help them find some additional resources. So it's a discussion.
Yes.
But talk to your spouse. You know, slipping money under the table, making these, you know, running to the bank on Saturday morning, making these deposits, but somebody think you really at Walmart.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna come out.
What we're talking about here is able, healthy body parents that are leeching off of their children. I'm just going to call it what it is. Able, healthy parents that can work, that have the ability to work, but they're leeching off their children. When your parents are at the situation where they, it's almost like they expect you to help them, or they're expecting you to pay a bill. Now, you don't live with them and different things like that, and they have these expectations when it comes to your budget, when it comes to your marriage, when it comes to your home. We're going to talk about, I'm going to give you a biblical reference in a little bit, but that shouldn't be. That shouldn't be. Because, see, if you can't budget your own home, and you're sneaking money, and you're stealing money, and things are coming up short in your own home, and you're trying to help an able-bodied person to do something else, you don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. And that's going to ultimately cause problems. I'll tell you another problem, tithing. Tithing can be a problem. I know we ran across couples where the one of the spouses don't work, like the wife may not work, but the husband work, but he don't believe in tithing. And then you stealing his money and taking his money, giving it to Reverend. Then I'm telling you, that's a problem.
You got to sit down and
you
talk
got to sit down
and
talk about that.
And we believe in tithing.
Yeah, I believe
we
in
say
tithing.
you got to sit down and you got to have a conversation.
Yeah, you got to
have a
talk
conversation
about those particular issues when it comes to money. And okay, I don't want to go down a bunch of because I know we have just a few more minutes, but this is my money, your money. You have to talk about it. We may need to do a session on that.
We need to talk about that.
Yeah,
my
money, your money. You take care of this bill, I take care of that bill. Listen, you guys are not roommates.
You are not. That is so good. I've heard so many couples. Well, you know, they, the bills they pay, they have money left over, and I don't have no money left over the bills I pay.
Yeah.
And they be doing this. Excuse me, y'all not roommates. What is this?
Mm-hmm.
Partnership. You guys are partners.
When you look at
it ain't my power bill, your power. You got the water.
You got this bill. You got that bill.
We got money.
We have bills.
We have bills.
We have a life.
And
you know,
sometimes I know that there are extended families, there are blended families, and so maybe there's some additional dynamics that are going on that you need to sit down and discuss. How do we navigate those additional dynamics? But some of the couples we've talked about, there were no additional dynamics. It was all roommate, you know. You knocking over my goodies.
No, I'm sorry.
It's you know, some of them it's all just, you know, you're acting like roommates.
Okay, I'm sorry. What'd you say?
It's inside your basket.
You go on to the next point. I hear it.
These lights, guys, in the studio.
I saw you sweating, but I was gonna let you overcome by sweat. Go on.
So, but we have to get this money issue together. Top 3 reason why couples get divorced is not for infidelity. Infidelity is not even in top 3.
Money,
in-laws, is money, in-laws, and time. Those are the 3 top: money, in-laws, and time. And if you can get that money thing right, you can have a long marriage. We only have 7 minutes. So holidays. This is another one that we've always had to deal with.
Holidays.
Yeah.
Holidays. This was a challenging one for us.
Yes.
Okay, holidays. The Bible says when you get married, you're no longer 2, but you're 1. So that means sometimes traditions have to change. I know it hurts. I'll give you an example. This wasn't a holiday, but I grew up, if you've ever seen the movie Soul Food or the series Soul Food, that's what Sunday dinner was like in my family. I had a very big family, and it was so special to me growing up. Well, when I got with my husband, I realized that he had a family, and they do Sunday dinner too. And it was hard for me at first, But I had
Not
to
on the scale.
realize,
Y'all did it.
not on the scale, but their family gathering was important to them. And I had to realize that I was going to have to adjust. It could not be just the way I wanted it, the way my family did it. But you have married someone else, so you might have to come up with new traditions. Maybe instead of, Christmas at mama's house, you might have to celebrate with mom and dad and them the weekend before so you can be at home with your spouse and your kids on Christmas Day. It's no perfect answer, but there is going to have to be compromise.
Yeah.
It was really challenging for us when we were just single, or not we were single, but it was just me and my husband. Holidays, it wasn't that challenging because both of our families lived in the same city. But when we brought kids into the picture, and you want to start traditions with your children and them waking up to their gifts in their home, it got really challenging. And you got to decide what's best for the people in your house.
Yeah.
Mama, daddy, cousin, sister, brother, uncle, them, everybody else will be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because you know what? They started their tradition. That's where you've been going to before you got married for years. Somebody started that tradition.
Yes.
Now it's time for you to start one for your household.
Yes. My wife answered that really good. Running errands. I guess one of the things that we've dealt with couples is running errands is when you don't have time to do some of the things that your husband or your wife may want because you're preoccupied running errands for your mom, your dad. Let me explain this one. Like I said.
Oh, can I jump in on this one? Me. Or working together. My husband, and I don't know if this is direction that he wanted with this point, but I just want to make this point, the importance of couples to working together, especially when you have children and small children. I remember when I had our last son, I had to have surgery.
Yeah.
I had to have a C-section. So it takes a while to recover. Blah, 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 blah. Long story short. So I get a call one day. We have 3 boys. And I get a call. And my husband called me. He said, it was so sincere. He said, I just want to apologize to you. He said, I'm just so sorry. And I'm thinking, what has happened? Like, why are you apologizing to me? Surely everything's okay. And I'm laughing now, but he said, I just want to apologize to you. We have got to work together. He said, nobody should ever have to go to the store with all 3 of those kids by themselves. Now, I had been doing it, I was better than the kids for a little bit. I had been doing it for a while. And I'm thinking, is that what you're calling me for? But running errands in a marriage, working together to make sure that the business of the home is taken care of. Right. In this day and age, a lot of times you have 2 spouses working, you got kids, they're involved in activities, you got parents, you got this. You're going to have to work together to make sure that the business of your home and your family is handled, which might mean you might not have time to run errands for mom and them like you used to. Yeah. Mama might have to practice driving. I know she ain't got on the freeway. She might need to get a little help with that. Because you got to manage the business of your home. Yeah. Is that where you're going?
No, that's not we're going, but maybe somebody
I had to tell that story. He had to apologize.
Maybe somebody needs to hear that. Yeah, that's true because you have to help out and work together and run errands. Number 9, we're getting close to number 10. Number 9, criticizing. Your parents should never criticize your spouse. Now, I learned that one from my dad.
I had an aha moment. Yes. You want me to tell you my aha moment? I'm laughing. Because we're talking about in-laws, right?
Yeah.
I had an aha moment. I was like, why you keep tying this back to parents? Why are you bringing the family in? I'm sorry. Aha moment. I should have had some coffee. Go ahead.
It's okay. But maybe somebody needs to hear that because, particularly, when school is starting back, and a lot of times it's easy. We have a lot of coaches that listen to this show. And I know they're going into camp now and different things like that. You have to learn how to share some of the responsibilities in the home. But going back to criticizing, your spouse should never criticize. Your parents should never criticize your spouse. They should keep their opinion to themselves when it comes to your spouse. And you are the protector
of your spouse.
That's
what we see, a lot of problems in marriages and situations because spouses don't protect their spouse.
Yes.
They allow, and there is a balance to everything, but I'm talking about some of us have relatives, in-laws that will just sit there and bad mouth your spouse. And that you shouldn't allow someone to just run your spouse's name in the ground.
And here's the big one. What church we going to go to?
What church we going to?
And I grew up in a Pentecostal setting, and it is automatically the rule that the wife is supposed to follow the husband. But as I began to grow in the things of God, I don't think that's necessarily the
you got to find your place.
The set thing that you should do. I think the best way to find a church home for you and your spouse is that you all come together and you all see what's best for us.
You get in prayer.
What's best for us?
Mama
and them church may not be best for you.
Mama and them church
it may not be
your
best
place.
for you. And grandma and them church may not be best for you.
And that doesn't mean that those are bad churches. That doesn't mean that it's a bad place. It just might not be your place.
Yes.
It might not be your pastor that God has given you and your spouse to shepherd over you guys. It's just not your place.
So we always tell couples the best thing that you should do when it comes to trying to find a church home is that you all, first of all, visit each other's churches. See, do you like each other's church, number one. And then if you don't like it, say, hey, you know,
let's check out some other places.
And then we try to find somewhere else. Let me give you scripture reference right here, and we're going to close out with this. Genesis chapter 2. Genesis chapter 2, because we gave you this 10 list of things that can call how in-laws influence a marriage. But I want you to look at Genesis chapter 2 when you get a chance, verses 21 through 24. And we always read this when it comes to married couples. And this is how you build a life together. This is how you build a life together. It says that, you know, the man had fell asleep, and when the man fell asleep, God came and took a rib out of Adam and created woman. And then when Adam saw, he said, this is now bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman because she was taken out of man. And then it says this. I'm reading from the New Living Translation. This explains why a man leaves his father and his mother and join to his wife. They're no more two, but they become one flesh. 3 laws that govern marriage, and we'll close with this one. There are 3 laws that govern marriage. Number 1, you leave.
Leave.
You leave family behind. You leave all of those traditions and customs behind because they may not work in your home. It may not work in your family. Number 2, you cleave. You and your wife, y'all come together.
Y'all join together, yes.
And y'all begin to see what is the next step for your life. And then next 3, you weave.
The becoming of one.
You become of one. And weaving is a tapestry. Whenever you begin to weave something together, it creates something new. Exactly. So you leave behind, you cleave to your wife, and you weave a new life together. You weave a new church home together. How it's supposed to look, you all take each other's advice, each other's considerations, each other's strengths, each other's weaknesses, and you join that together and you weave a new life together. Leave, cleave, weave. Those are the 3 laws that should govern marriage. I could go in more teaching and talk about that, but that's it for me today. Do we have any questions?
No questions.
No questions?
Awesome.
You know, we got to make, you sure? Because somebody told me that they sent the question in and we didn't read it, so.
Well, if you can't see it at the moment, we just.
God bless you guys.
All right, thank
We'll
you guys
see
so
you.
much for joining us for Pillow Talk. Have a good evening.
Okay.